Hello, and welcome to Stamps Old World UK, your go-to channel for everything about classic stamps, collecting, and their real market worth today in US dollars. I'm thrilled you're here, and in this video, we're diving deep into the fascinating, sometimes surprising world of stamp valuation and what rare stamps are commanding in today's market in US dollars. Let's begin with the fundamentals. What gives a stamp value? Condition is king. A stamp that is mint, with its original gum intact, bright colors, sharp perforations, and no damage will always outperform a worn or heavily used copy. Fading, creases, tears, or missing perforations all drastically cut value. Experts agree that the better preserved your stamp, the higher its premium. Next is rarity. Stamps that were printed in limited quantities, withdrawn early, destroyed, or contain printing errors or misperforations can fetch huge sums because collectors scramble to own an example. Also, historical importance or provenance adds extra value. Then there's demand. If many collectors or institutions covet a particular issue, its price goes up. And don't ignore the role of catalogs and expert marketplaces. Major catalogs like Stanley Gibbons for British/Commonwealth and Scott Armichael for US and other countries provide baseline values, but actual sale prices are often lower, depending on condition and current demand. So, with those principles in mind, let's look at some real examples of spectacular stamp sales in USD in recent years to show what top end looks like. Perhaps the most famous is the British Guiana 1-cent magenta. This stamp has a unique status. Only one example is known to exist. In its most recent sale, it fetched about $8,307,000 US dollars. That's right, over $8 million. In the United States, one of the rarest and most valuable is the Benjamin Franklin Z Grill, a 1-cent 1868 US stamp. Only two are known to exist. Its value has been estimated at $4,400 US dollars in recent years. Here in the UK, an example of a British classic with incredible rarity is the 1910 2D Tyrian plum stamp of Edward VII. It was printed but never issued because Edward VII died, so almost all were destroyed. One fine example sold for the equivalent of £110,000. In USD, that is roughly $135,000 to $140,000 at current exchange rates. These are headline sums, but make no mistake, the vast majority of stamps in even old collections will be worth only modest amounts, tens or hundreds of dollars at best, unless they meet the conditions of rarity, condition, demand, and provenance. Many ordinary older stamps rarely exceed their face value by more than a small multiple. Now, for those watching who have inherited a collection or found old stamps in albums or boxes, how do you find out what yours might be worth? First, catalog your stamps. Identify country, issue date, and condition. Compare them to listings in trusted catalogs or online databases, such as Gibbons, Scott, Colnect, or specialist stamp value sites. Second, get expert opinions. Many auction houses or philatelic experts provide valuations or appraisals. They can spot subtle differences, watermarks, printing varieties, or errors you might miss. Third, remember that catalog values are idealized. They assume near-perfect condition. Most collectors or dealers will apply discounts. As someone in a Reddit philately forum put it, starting bids at around 10% of catalog value, meaning that many items are priced vastly below the top catalog number. Let me close by walking you through how I would approach valuing your stamp, step by step. I'd first examine it under good lighting, check the gum and perforations, look for watermark or hidden marks, compare with known examples, and consult specialists. Then I'd check recent auction results of similar stamps for real realized prices in USD. Based on all that, I would derive a realistic market value. So, for your viewers and collectors, the takeaway is this. Yes, some stamps sell for millions of dollars, but those are the rare exceptions. The majority will yield modest sums, yet they still hold beauty, history, and sometimes surprising hidden value. If you have a particular stamp you want me to evaluate, send clear photos and in the next video, we'll appraise it live.
Next up, the 1-pound brown King George VI stamp, and we'll explore its fascinating story and what it's worth in today's collector's market in US dollars. Let's begin with a bit of background. The £1 King George VI definitive stamp was issued during the late 1930s and early 1940s, at a time when Britain's postal system was undergoing modernization. The stamp itself features a beautifully engraved profile of King George VI surrounded by national floral emblems of the United Kingdom, the rose, thistle, shamrock, and leek, all symbolizing unity and strength of the British Isles. The design is both simple and regal, printed in rich brown tones that give it an unmistakable air of prestige and authority. Now, when we talk about high-value stamps like this, it's important to remember that a £1 face value during the 1930s was a large sum of money. These stamps were not used for ordinary letters, but for parcels, legal documents, or overseas packages, which means fewer were used compared to lower denomination stamps. This lower circulation adds to their collectible value today. Collectors love this issue because it represents the start of a new royal reign, following the abdication of Edward VIII. The King George VI £1 brown stamp marks stability after a turbulent period in Britain's royal history. It was engraved to perfection and printed by Waterloo & Sons, known for their high-quality stamp production. Now, let's move on to what you're all eager to know, the current market value. Prices for this stamp vary widely depending on condition and whether it is mint or used. A mint unmounted example, meaning the gum is intact and never hinged, can fetch between $15,000 and $35,000 USD in today's collector's market. If it's a particularly well-centered, perfectly preserved copy or from a rare printing batch, prices can rise up to around $50,000 USD. Used examples, those that were actually postally handled but remain clean and well-centered, generally trade for $5,000 to $12,000 USD. Of course, stamps with heavy cancellations or faults will be worth less, often under $40,000 USD. For collectors building a complete King George VI collection, this £1 brown issue is a highlight, a crown jewel that symbolizes both craftsmanship and history. When you hold one, you're holding a piece of British postal heritage that's nearly a century old, designed during a time of global change and printed to a standard of beauty that has rarely been surpassed. If you're lucky enough to have one of these stamps in pristine condition, protect it carefully. Keep it in a dry, acid-free stock book or mount away from direct sunlight. For higher value examples, you might even consider a professional certificate of authenticity or grading from a recognized philatelic expert. Remember, stamp values can fluctuate depending on collector demand and auction trends, but one thing never changes: the historical charm and pride associated with classic British issues like this. So there you have it, the story and value of the magnificent £1 King George VI brown definitive stamp. Whether you're a serious collector or just starting out, this is a piece worth knowing and appreciating.
Next up, the Falkland Islands, to explore one of the most celebrated and valuable colonial stamps ever issued. The 1933 Falkland Islands £1 King George V Centenary Stamp. This masterpiece was released in 1933 to commemorate the 100th anniversary of British rule in the Falkland Islands, which began in 1833. The entire set consisted of 12 denominations, but the £1 stamp was the highest value and remains the crown jewel of the collection. It features an engraved portrait of King George V in full naval uniform, surrounded by ornate framing and printed in rich black and carmine hues that make it instantly recognizable and visually stunning. The 1933 Centenary issue is not just beautiful, it's one of the most historically important colonial stamps ever produced. At the time of issue, the Falkland Islands were a small, isolated British territory in the South Atlantic Ocean. The stamps were printed in limited numbers by Bradbury Wilkinson & Co., a respected London printer known for producing some of the finest engraved stamps of the early 20th century. Now here's where it gets interesting: the print quantity. Only a few thousand of each denomination were ever made, and fewer still have survived in pristine condition. The £1 value was the most expensive at the time and was mainly used for large parcels or official business, meaning very few mint examples were kept by collectors. Because of this rarity, it has become one of the most desirable stamps in the entire British Empire collection. Let's talk about current market value. In today's stamp market, this £1 King George V Centenary issue from 1933 can command impressive prices. A mint, lightly hinged example typically sells for around $1,500 to $2,500 USD, depending on centering and gum condition. If the stamp is in superb mint unmounted condition, meaning it has never been hinged or disturbed, the value can soar even higher, reaching $3,500 to $4,000 USD at major auctions. Used examples, which are genuinely postmarked and well preserved, can still bring $800 to $1,200 USD. However, condition is crucial. Stamps with tears, heavy cancellations, or fading colors will see values drop significantly, sometimes to just a few $100s. What truly sets this issue apart is not just its rarity or beauty, but the fact that it represents a moment of pride in the Falkland Islands' history, a celebration of a century of British administration and identity. Collectors of British Commonwealth stamps treasure it because it combines craftsmanship, limited availability, and a strong historical narrative. Over the decades, this stamp has consistently held its value and often appreciated over time. Even in the modern philatelic market, where trends can fluctuate, the 1933 Falkland Islands £1 King George V Centenary remains a solid investment piece. It's often included in lists of the top 100 most valuable British Commonwealth stamps, and examples in top condition are frequently the highlight of major auctions. For anyone lucky enough to own one, my advice is simple: store it carefully. Keep it in a protective mount, away from direct sunlight and humidity. If possible, have it certified by a recognized expertising authority. It adds credibility and can significantly enhance its resale value. The story of this stamp reminds us why philately is such a powerful window into history. With a single design, it tells of empire, craftsmanship, and the enduring legacy of a distant island that still captures the imagination of collectors around the world. So, there you have it, the remarkable story and market value of the 1933 Falkland Islands £1 King George V Centenary Stamp, a symbol of heritage, beauty, and rarity that continues to shine brightly in the world of classic stamps. Thank you for watching Stamps Old World UK. If you enjoyed today's deep dive, be sure to like, subscribe, and share this video with fellow collectors. Join me next time as we uncover more treasures from the golden age of philately. Until then, keep collecting, keep learning, and may your next discovery be truly extraordinary.